Welcome to this edition of Quick Tips. I'm Ryan, Triathlon.com. In this video, we're going to be talking about training for your first Ironman, and maybe it's a spring Ironman, which if you're in the Midwest or North, is a little bit intimidating because there's kind of less opportunities to be outdoors with the weather and everything else going on, unless you're super hardcore and you like riding in the cold. Running in the cold is not as much of a problem, but riding, personally, if it's 40 or less out there, I'm not going. So let's dive in to talk about your first Ironman and looking at it during the spring. I'm talking to you, Ironman Texas people, Ironman Tulsa, Des Moines, 7103 Boulder, all you people, I'm talking to you. So let's dive into it. Number one, pick a race wisely. I always tell people that's going to make or break probably your whole experience. Make sure you're picking a race that is geared towards you and your ability to train for that terrain, for the climate, or anything like that. If you live in Kansas, which is not flat, and you pick Ironman Florida, which is a little bit more flat, then there's going to be a little bit more cycling and riding. And that's not a spring race, but as an example of pick a race that you may be more suited for. If you do a lot of indoor trainer rides, if you get ready for hills, like Ironman Texas is somewhat flat, but there's a headwind. So being on your trainer is a little bit more applicable because you're basically cycling the entire time, which you'll be doing Ironman Texas. Ironman Tulsa is a little bit hillier. So just consider that. Pick a race that kind of suits how you're able to train during that time off, or how you're able to train in general for that first Ironman, because that will kind of affect your experience a lot. Number two, know the needs of the course. So when I say know the needs of the course, are you going to need different gearing for your bike? Are you going to need cold weather gear? Are you going to need hot weather gear? And in spring, it's kind of a wild card. You think you pick a cool weather race, and it ends up being 90 degrees on race day in June in Iowa. A little bit of a shocker, but always be paying attention to the weather, to the race course, to the race maps, everything like that, and just know what you're going to need as far as equipment-wise and kind of mentality-wise and training conditions-wise. Know the needs of the course. Number three, better get the bike squared away. So, and by getting the bike squared away, I mean, do you have a tri bike? Do you have a road bike? Do you have aero bars? If you have a road bike, do you need to get a new bike? Is yours kind of on its last leg? You got, you're kind of your Walmart bike that probably isn't going to make it through a full rotation of Ironman training. So make sure that before you really get into your training plan, before you really get into it, that you get your bike kind of squared away and you get something that is sustainable for that length of period of time to do the training and do the race. Especially if you're going to pick kind of a hillier course like Ironman Tulsa or something like that. It requires a lot more hill climbing and a little bit more stress on the bike. So if your bike can't handle it, maybe time to look into it and make sure you can get a bike that can get you there. Number four, look into a smart trainer if at all possible. This day and age, and especially now, Black Fridays are coming up here at the time of this recording, sales and everything like that. You can get a smart trainer for a pretty affordable price. I like the Direct Drive. It took me a minute to really get on board with it. It's a little bit more dependable than the wheel-on smart trainer, but if a wheel-on is the way you need to go with a smart trainer if at all possible. It night and day difference, training indoors and being race ready. Probably not as good as being outdoors, but if you can't go outdoors, it's the next best thing. So consider a smart trainer. I highly recommend them. Number five, get a treadmill or access to one. Fortunate, we've got a treadmill in our basement, so I can hop off my bike and immediately step over and do my brick run. Especially if, I'll go out and run if it's cooler, especially with my dogs. We got a 2-year-old German Shepherd. He likes to go out with me and jogs. So afterwards, I'll throw on some clothes and I'll go out for a run. Even in the 20s, I'll take him out for a run. But sometimes, if it's snowing, if it's raining or something like that, he's a pansy, doesn't like to go out in it. And I'm not going to go out there unless I have to. So I hit the treadmill immediately. It takes so much of the guesswork out, and safety-wise, if it is snowing, if it's freezing rain, that kind of stuff, you don't have to worry about it. If you don't have good sidewalks and stuff around you, it's a good, safe option to have a treadmill. So if you got one or access to one, I highly recommend using it as much as possible. Number six, do you have a wetsuit? More often than not, spring Ironman races are going to be wetsuit legal, at least optional. And if you're kind of uncomfortable on the swim, highly recommend a wetsuit. Full sleeve if possible. No sleeve if that's the way you want to go. But if you get a full sleeve and it fits right, you put it on right, shouldn't be a problem. But highly recommend a wetsuit. Make sure you're looking at that, especially in the spring. More often than not, even if it's going to be hot. I'm in Des Moines. It was hot, but it was wetsuit legal because the water was cool enough, because it just suddenly jumped up in temperature those couple of days. Lucky for us for air temperature, but lucky for us on the swim, wetsuit legal. So that's that one. Number 7, if you do not have clip-in pedals, I would look into that if I were you, especially 56 miles, 112 miles if you're doing your first Ironman. I highly recommend having clip-in pedals that you clip into your bike, because it is so much more efficient than just the regular old pedals where you put your feet on, you slide around, slide off, all kinds of fun stuff. So look into it. If you've got the means, I highly recommend getting them, and make sure that you're comfortable doing them and using it in training. So, number 8, find a solid pair of running shoe styles you like and have 2 pairs for training. So this is the kind of how I roll. I limit my shoes to 300 miles, and I have 1 pair for the basement, 1 pair for outdoors, and then I have separate pair of shoes. And I spend a little bit more on those shoes that I use for race day, because I've got like 8 A6 Meta racers or different, with the carbon plate. It gives it a little bit more efficiency. I'll talk about that in another video. But make sure you have, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on the training shoes, just something that is good for your feet and durable and will make it through your training cycle. And I say 2 because more often than not, 1 pair of shoes is not going to make it minimum 6 months. And then when you're doing 30 to 40 miles per week, maybe even 50 if you're doing an advanced athlete training plan, I don't think you're going to make it through with 1 pair of shoes with them being able to support you like they should. So I always use 2 through my training cycles, and then when they hit 300 miles, it's either going to give them to my son or sell them on eBay or throw them away, whatever. So consider a solid pair of running shoes and a couple pairs to get you through your training cycle. Number 9, consider an aero helmet. So if you're doing first Ironman, if you've done maybe 70.3, you kind of felt the effects if you don't have an aerodynamic helmet. The last thing you want to be out there is a sail, especially for that long distance. So that is one thing I highly recommend, is looking at aerodynamic helmets for even the first timers, or if you've been doing them for a while and you're like, oh, I want to save some speed, consider an aero helmet. Number 10, find hydration and nutrition that work for you and stock up. And it's kind of hard when you're doing this stuff. If you're training over the winter, it's going to be cold more than likely where you're at. And if you're in the South, then you may have an opportunity that it's not as cold. But here, like in the Midwest, we're already, time of this recording, it's November 16th, and the high for today is 31. The high on Friday is going to be 25 degrees. So really not sweating that much in my workouts, even though I'm indoors in the basement for the most part. I do sweat on my runs and stuff, but it's hard to make yourself want to drink, to try out your nutrition, try out your hydration. But you've got to really hone that stuff in, because you don't want to come out the other side and then spring hits, and you're hitting kind of that last couple peak weeks or whatever, and you're like, I need to switch, I need to find, and you're scrambling around trying to find a product that works best for you. You want to address that early on as possible. So make sure you find hydration, nutrition that work for you, and stick with it. So this is kind of my tips. I've had a few of my athletes and other people ask me, it's like, I want to do my first Ironman, but it's going to be in the spring. What should I kind of focus on? And I know it's very specific, but it was a question I've gotten a few times. So this is what I kind of recommend. So hopefully that helps you out. If it does, if you're seeing it on Facebook, give a like. If you're seeing it on YouTube, give me a like, give me subscribe, hit the notification button, see future tips, future course videos. Got any questions? Got any comments? Good, bad, indifferent? Put them in the comments of Facebook or YouTube. I get notifications. I'll see them. If they're good questions, hopefully I'll get back, find a good answer for you. If they're not, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully you got some good comments for me out there. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video, and we'll see you in the next one.